off mute. CMA class. What is it? What do we need it for? Fresh out of the textbook. Do you remember what CMA is?
It's the analysis, like, I can't remember. To figure out what the home price is.
That's right. This pricing analysis, right? When are these beneficial?
When you are putting someone's house up for sale.
That's right. Selling / listing a home. Who knows?
Yes, if they're back.
That's right.
That's supportive.
So essentially working with buyers and sellers. A lot of people, especially coming fresh out of class, including myself at least, think CMA is just for sellers, which is kind of crazy because, we also help buyers and how do they, determine or justify the price that they're gonna pay for a home. So I found it a lot simpler setting those expectations. So ideally, I want to meet, with the buyer or seller in person. The seller, it's at their house for a consultation, kind of talking about the process, looking at the home, giving them some guidance as relates to pricing. And I'll walk in there with and see a CMA for their neighborhood already, which I kind of compile before I get there, but it's hard to give them a price without actually seeing the house. So I kind of walk in there with a range. Once I see everything, I can kind of refine that range a little bit better. Same thing with a buyer. So my goal is to meet with them for a buyer consultation initially when they express that they have a real estate need, they want to buy a home, regardless of timeline. We get in front of them, talk about that process, talk about, kind of their needs analysis, what they're looking for, what they need, what they want, where the market's at, and how I will, provide value throughout each step of the process. One of which, showing them houses, anytime they have interest in a home that we see, I'm gonna reach out to that agent, talk to them, see if they've had a lot of traffic, see if they're expecting any offers or if they already have one, so that I can, give all that information back to my client so that we can make an informed decision if they want to write an offer. So we leave the listing. I usually ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, where they would rate that home, with 10 being it checks all the boxes for what they're looking for and 0, absolute bust. So depending on what grade they give me, usually a 6 to 7 or higher, I'm gonna ask, okay, what would make it a 10, or what's missing from this home or this property to make it a 10? So from there, I'm kind of isolating. Is it an objection or is it a condition? Those are two of the best things to get familiar with when you're talking to prospects and leads, home buyers, home sellers. Hey, there he is.
Hey, man,
What's going on?
do I need my laptop for this?
You don't have to have it.
Okay, all right.
You don't have to have it as long as you got a good memory, and I know you do, Billy.
Sorry, I'm interrupted.
No, you're fine. So I kind of isolate objection, condition. So somebody told me they rated a home a 7 that we just saw. Well, that's great. What's missing from the home to make it a 10, or what would make it a 10? Now, if they tell me something like floors, paint, wallpaper, something that we can change, that's more an objection. There's a way around that. A condition would more so be, the size of the yard, the size of the home, the layout of the home, the location of the home. Can't really do much about that, right? So if they give me an objection, I'm going to offer solutions to those objections. Would it be worth making an offer in consideration of those items, what they would cost to replace or do? And if they say yes, then hey, we're in there like swimwear. We're going to make an offer. So that's kind of how I roll through that, because you can get into a rut sometimes showing a bunch of houses and not getting a whole lot of good feedback, because a lot of agents fail to ask those questions, right? A lot of people, I guess, think we just go show a house, someone either loves it or they hate it.
Yeah.
And there's no gray area, but there's a lot of gray area, especially it's good to ask the right questions here in markets where there's not a lot of inventory, because there's not a lot of options out there. Anyways, I'm not gonna bore you to death with all that stuff, just kind of want to give you a background since you are newer. So going back to that expectation part, I meet with a buyer, we go look at a house, I let them know what I'm gonna do after the fact, if they have interest in that home, they wanna make an offer. First of all, when we leave, that house that we just saw, I'm gonna call that agent, gonna get, as much data as information as I can from their experience so far, offers, traffic, etc. Because if they've got a lot of showings already occurred and already booked for future dates, then it's important that we go in there with a solid offer in order to avoid kind of multiple offer situations. Now, after that, I'm gonna go back to my office or, get back in front of the computer and I'm gonna pull a CMA and give you an idea as a buyer, what this house could sell for in this market. So I'm gonna pull market data, which you'll see we do here in a second, and I'm gonna come up with a range. Now, at the end of the day, I don't ever give a buyer a specific price to offer on home, because my needs aren't their needs, and I may not be in the market same time they're in the market. So we would arrive at different prices. I'm gonna give you a range based on what the market suggests. Now, at the end of the day, it's up to you as a buyer, offer an amount that you feel comfortable paying, as well as, one that aligns with your monthly budget. So what, when, a few other things, make sure you distinguish between is assessed value. There's three different types of value. Assessed value, appraisal value, and market value. The reason I like to harp on this is because a lot of times, more so with buyers, sometimes with, or more so with sellers, sometimes with buyers, is you meet with the seller and they'll say, well, I just had an appraisal for X amount. Or my tax assessment, the assessed value is this amount, I wanna go at that price. Well, what's wrong with that? Assessed value is what the local municipality wants to tax a homeowner on, right? That's for tax purposes. Taxable value. I don't know about you, but most people want to pay the least amount of taxes as possible. And I've not heard of anyone complaining about their assessed value to the point where they go to the courthouse and say, hey, my assessed value is too low. They might say it's too high and try to get it lower so they can, pay a lesser tax on it. So point being, assessed value usually lower in terms of what that property is actually valued at. Appraisal value, why does someone get an appraisal? Okay, yeah, that's one reason. Determine value. Why would someone want to know what it's worth?
Loan purposes.
Okay,
How much they can sell it for?
what'd you say?
How much they can sell it for?
Sure. So,
Equity value.
equity for what?
It's,
In case they want to tap into that equity,
tap into, for,
so loan purposes,
that's one person.
buying. Equity. HELOC, bridge, etc. Bunch of different reasons why you get appraisal. Determine value in, you're thinking about selling, loan purposes, when someone's buying, using a loan, bank's gonna get an appraisal because that's gonna, help them evaluate the risk involved. Equity, someone's been in a home for a while and, they paid 200 for it, but it's worth 400 now. And they've been paying on it, they may owe 150, so they've got about $350,000 in equity there, or $250,000 in equity. A lot of banks will loan up to 80, 90% on that equity. So I know a lot of times when it comes to loans, if they're appraising your property to give you a loan on the equity in your home, bank's gonna be a little more generous on that, right? Banks and business loan money. They wanna earn on that interest, they wanna put that money back to work. When a home buyer starts a home, they're gonna be a little generous, but they're also gonna be a little more conservative than they would be if they were, doing an appraisal for a HELOC. Reason being is they want to give the loan for that buyer to go buy a house. They just don't want to over assess the value because that will increase the risk on the bank's behalf. Banks in risk mitigation. That's why they evaluate credit and things of that nature before they even agree to provide somebody with loan. So high or low credit, they're probably gonna be, a little more careful when they assess that total loan package as a whole. Now, market value, completely different. That's what oftentimes a buyer is willing to pay for something a seller is willing to sell it for, right? That's what the market's willing to pay for something. What a buyer is willing to pay and a seller is willing to sell it. All right. Now, one could say, well, if that buyer has a loan, he still has to appraise, right? So what happens if it's cash deal? No appraisal with contingency. Does it have to appraise? Could it be higher than the appraisal value? Right? Oftentimes that appraisal value, suspiciously enough, comes in right above that sell price, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Usually by about 100, at minimum 500 to $1,000. So it's all funny stuff because when you're meeting with these sellers, they're saying, well, I just had an appraisal about a year ago. They said my home was worth this, and you're telling me it's 20,000 less. Mr. Schultz, I appreciate you sharing that with me. What, if you don't mind me asking, out of curiosity, what did you get that appraisal for? Well, we got an equity loan, a HELOC, home equity line of credit. Okay. So the bank was wanting more than likely to give you that loan, right? So they're probably gonna be a little more generous on that versus what the market's willing to give you, because you're wanting to sell a property. Because you can't afford that payment or use too much of that HELOC and you're in a sticky situation. So I don't mind to put it out there at that price that they gave you 12 months ago. The only challenge is if the market rejects it and it's more in line with the price that I'm proposing today, are you willing to make that adjustment at that time? And we'll go over kind of some telltale signs from the data we look at today of how to make that assessment. Usually with average days on market. Questions over any of that stuff? The other thing is buyers will see that on Zillow. They'll see the price history. A lot of times that assessed value will be in there. And it doesn't necessarily mean that property is sold. Sometimes when it changes hands or, say someone transfers it to a family member, it's going to reflect the price that most likely it didn't sell for between those two family members, right? So that can be questionable, and especially during periods of significant appreciation year over year. Somebody buys a house for 200 grand 10 years ago, now it's worth 500 grand. That buyer is going to be a little confused by that. Sometimes shocked. They're going to go, well, is the market going to go down? Is it going to crash? Well, That's assessed value. Here's the data on the market over the past 10, 15, 20 years, prices have gradually come up. There's periods where it might, stabilize a little bit, but throughout history, home prices have done what, Bentley?
Oh, instead of,
Mhm. I mean, you look at the PVA here in Lexington, some of these houses 30, 40 years ago, back in the eighties, selling for 60 to 80 grand. Now they're selling for 67.
I tell you what, my first house in Georgetown. It was a little 3-bed, 1-bath, kitchen, little utility area. Around 1,000 square feet on a slab. And just before Toyota came in, we bought it for around 42 or 43. 2 years later, once Toyota was in there, we sold it for like 45, 46. Didn't even cover everything. And Jeff Green just sold that, had that on the market about a year and a half or 2 years ago, for right around 200,000.
Crazy.
They hadn't done a thing to it.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
Now, how long did you own it for?
I just owned it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
That's why it was only a few thousand. That was right when Toyota announced they're coming in and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. So industry coming in can definitely increase the local markets. I heard an interesting stat a few months back that every like when a manufacturer comes into an area, it usually adds 6 accessory jobs. Like,
Yeah.
teachers, CPAs, accountants, stuff like that.
Everything.
So
Because that's what support,
so for every manufacturing job, there's 6 accessory jobs, which is pretty neat.
yeah, well, that's what makes the economy. A lot of people don't realize that. Only reason the doctor's office usually goes in somewhere, there's more people there, there's clients.
Mhm.
It's like the first thing to go into a place where it's growing is usually industrial jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Because you need teachers. They don't just put a school somewhere where there's not many people.
Mm-mm.
They don't put a hospital there. They don't, put a motel there. It's not, yeah.
Because you look at you look back home, where I'm originally from, southeastern Kentucky, and coal mining, the mining industry was huge back then. And since it's kind of diminished, they're closing schools down, they're consolidating. So to your point, when industry moves out of an area, it starts shrinking.
Oh, yeah.
Those jobs start going away or relocating. And that's why I'm a big fan of Lexington, is it's got a strong, stable foundation with its infrastructure, from the healthcare to the manufacturing to the banking. I mean, you go downtown, there's a bank, hospital on every corner, it feels like.
Shoot, right around here. How many banks are right around here?
Oh, yeah. And then you got, higher education, which adds to it. University of Kentucky's not going anywhere.
Frank's not going nowhere. The party school.
That's right. There's too much money there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to the Flex MLS, which is the source for agent listed homes. Anytime you have a listing, it's Holly, right? Anytime an agent has a house to sell for a seller or for themselves, this is where they'll put it. Flex MLS. Log in. And this is where we will spend the bulk of our day. Bailey, you got any homes that you want to price out, or Holly, that you coming to class with today?
Can you read my house?
Yeah, sure. We got
Want me to tell you like what?
address.
It's 2021. Drummond,
Say it again.
Drummond, DRUMMOND.
DRUMMOND.
Yep, MMOND Drive. That's Lexington.
Hoping that's been. Did you buy it recently or?
About 2 years.
Okay. And it was probably listed on the market.
Yes.
Okay. Right on. So first things first, I go into my Flex, go to menu. I go to address search because I want to locate the subject property, get familiar with it before I start looking at other houses. So I go to underneath search here, address search. You see how I've added these stars? What that does, it brings them to the top.
Okay.
So if I use, some of these features commonly, I'll add them to the top. So quick search, save searches, address search. But yours won't look like that until you kind of customize it. So I go to address search, type in the street number and the street name. Drum. I'm gonna leave it short on this search because this will pull all the records associated with that address that's ever been entered into the MLS. So anytime it's been sold, and I want to consider the potential error. An agent might have listed it 20 years ago with one M instead of two M's. So I'm going to keep it kind of broad there, just drum. There we go. All these look to be Lexington. Perfect. Some of these were rentals. So first thing I'm looking for here, especially when I have several records to go off of, is any discrepancies in bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage. Looks like it's been pretty consistent across the board. So for this error, 1907, and these down here. So I'm going to go with the most recent one since there's not a whole lot of discrepancy there. There's the house.
This look like that anymore, did a full remodel.
Oh, very cool. Love the tall ceilings.
Never go wrong with that stuff unless you put in an in-ground pool.
They won't let us do.
Big windows in the living room. Is that the front or the back? That's the back.
Yes.
All right. Other thing I'm going to do, since there was a little bit of discrepancy with the square footage, I'm going to look at the PVA record. So that's something else that we have access to in Fayette County and a lot of the surrounding counties through our local board or association, Bluegrass Association of Realtors, is PVA websites, which allows us to look at specific properties, look up by owner also, and kind of get information there. So you'll have to log in. Boom.
We log in through Flex.
Mm-hmm.
We get everything, not just like a guest, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you get it on as a guest on PVA, which I just
It's limited.
today, yeah. And
Yeah.
how do you, is there a button on there somewhere you can go and like,
Set them all up.
yeah,
Should be.
okay,
Or see which ones you have access to.
Yeah.
First thing I want to ask you is when you say you sign up through Flex, how do you mean?
like, do we have to sign up for those? Like, the majority of the stuff I do is Fayette County and Scott County.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure I have access to those instead of going on my phone like as a guest signing in. Is there a way to do that, or
Yeah. So
don't worry about it if it's too much of an issue? I don't want to take time away from Holly.
no, you're fine. So anytime you get on the PVA website, because this, Holly's just starting, so she might run into this too. No matter the county, you see my name right there. So I've logged into the Fayette County one. When in fact, I've really logged into this platform here, qpublic.schneidercorp.com, which kind of houses a majority of PVA websites.
Yeah, that's what I usually go on. So I said you don't get everything.
Depends on
Like topography and stuff like that.
yeah, you probably don't have. You could probably find some ways around that. Yeah, right. I mean, it's got all your basic essentials, who owns it, where they live at, and a sale history. Now, it depends on the county too. So if I go to my account, that drop down, it's going to show me all the ones I have access to. Let me go ahead and open that before.
Oh, so go down that, okay.
Boom. So I click my account. So we've got Anderson County, Clark, Estill.
Now, it says subscriptions, are those ones that you signed up for?
Well, L-Bar signed us up.
Okay, so we all have that if we're with Elbar.
You see that email there? help@lbar.com.
Okay,
Well, Bluegrass. Still call it L-Bar. That's what it used to be called. Now I have signed up for some before, but these are the ones that we have access to through Bluegrass Association of Realtors.
and how you doing?
You know, the funny thing about Scott County is I think it's totally free. It's wide open. So if I go to Scott County, PVA. So sometimes when you Google that, it'll take you to a website like this. That's the
Yeah.
one you probably want. But
Yeah,
if I go to Scott counties, all of them kind of look like this right here. If you go to their main PVA website, look for something like quick links, property search, agree.
Yeah, that's what I'm used to going on.
So if I were to log off, I go back through that Scott County PVA. I've got the same options. Usually on the guest, like the public has, this is public information for the most part, but most county websites won't let you search by owner as a guest. Scott County is a little bit different, and I guess that's why we don't have a subscription to it, because they've left it wide open. Trying to think of an address in Scott County, because I want to see if there's any limited info there too.
108. No, 108, yeah, that's fine. That's cool.
So yeah, Scott County's is free across the board to anybody. Because usually, even though it gave me the option to search by owner, um, the guest side would kind of limit some of this information, like the sales history, so forth and so on. So, give you an example of what that looks like. I go to Laurel County PVA. See, same kind of setup here. Go to property search, agree.
The
Anytime.
majority of them like that. Yeah, every now and then you'll have some of these counties that, yeah, they act like it's, they can't give that info out. Like you gotta do everything. It'll take you a week to get on there because you gotta send them a drop of blood. Gotta analyze it.
Well, Laurel County gives you a lot too. That's crazy. So it's hit or miss there. But
Okay,
once you get logged into one of the PVA websites and you're on this qpublic.schneidercorp, you can drop that down, go to your account, and see all the ones that you have access to. Now, see, you can see all the subscriptions from the past that have expired. Some of these are through Bluegrass. Some of these I've purchased myself. And if you're missing one that you want, you go to purchase other subscriptions. So some PVAs will give you like a 24-hour access. Some will give you up to 10 records. So it varies. More rural you get, be careful, because even if you pay for it, they may not give you the information that you're looking for that they often give you on, less rural PVA sites. All right. So we got the subject property pulled back up, the one we're going to offer pricing on. Your bill 07, square foot 1779. This says 1807, but the majority of them said 1807. So I would use that instead of this, because the PVA oftentimes isn't the most accurate source of data either. So anytime a house, someone's owned a house for 30 plus years, say they bought it and it's an unfinished basement, they may have finished that since and didn't report it to the PVA.
for obvious reasons. They didn't want their assessed value to go up because the size of the house goes up, their assessed value most likely to go up. In addition to someone adding on to a home, screening in a patio, you know, that kind of stuff. So nonetheless, we have a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, 1,807 square foot home. Just gonna write that down, because that's kind of my process, so I don't lose sight of that. 2.5 baths. 1,807 square feet. Built 07 to 09. Notice the MLS said 09, PVA said 07, who knows? Somewhere, it's new. 2-car garage. Because now I'm gonna look for similar properties with those specs. Kind of built around the same time that have sold over the past 6 to 12 months. Reason I say 6 to 12, usually 6 months is the best snapshot of the market you want to capture because that's the most recently. However, if comparable or similar homes are limited, an appraiser is allowed to go back a full 12 months to justify pricing. If they can't find enough within a 6-month time frame. So I'll apply that same principle because, you know, if they're going to do it to appraise the home, why not do it to sell the home, right? And I don't want to miss any things. If the comparables that have sold more recently in the past 6 months are not up to the condition this one is versus one that sold maybe 6 to 12 months ago, and would add another 20K in value, definitely want to consider that, right? So let me get familiar with the location as well. So probably a little exclusive pocket right here, but I could probably take some from over here in Masterson Station too, since I know there's some homes built around that same time frame. But for now, I'm going to keep it in that pocket. So I go back to my Flex, open up a quick search. So these tabs can get carried away rather quickly. I'm going to pin that and pin that and pin that. So it's out of my way. So I've got the comparable here pulled up. I've got the PVA record for the comparable pulled up. And now I'm going to start looking for similar homes. So first things first, let me get rid of this. Yeah, it didn't bother me until I got in here. Hide floating panel. Perfect. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is locate the subject property. Right here, this little red thumbtack, locate address, click it. Now, when I did the address search before, I left it broad. I just typed in 2021 drum. This one I'm going to be very detailed with because I want to make sure we get the right location and it doesn't put me in another state. Drummond Drive, that's Lexington, Kentucky 40511. Locate. That looks to be the place. You can double check that. That looks perfect. So from here, there's a bunch of different ways you can approach it. You could type in, the criteria, say bedrooms. I could go, 2 to 4 bedrooms. I could go to bathrooms and, +1, -1 for the parameters there. I'm going to stay away from that since that's such a small pocket. I could even enter in the subdivision. So what subdivision is that? I go back to the subject on my other tab, go to subdivision Coventry, make sure that's not changed any, go back to my list, Coventry all the way down. So That's the neighborhood. I could do subdivision, type in Coventry. Boom. So there's one active. If I go to closed. So that's the statuses. I want to make sure I don't just get the actives because that's what's available on the market. I want to get pending, contingent, essentially the same thing under contract, and closed. So
Justin,
Yeah.
since right above that, the property subtype, do you ever mess with that? Does that make a difference?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Condo and stuff?
I do. That's usually one of the last things I add on.
Oh, okay,
So I kind of see where my results are when I
okay.
add the statuses in there. We go back. So you can toggle this too. From like dates to like days back. If you want to go months back, you just click that. Go years back. I like to go days back. So 184, that's roughly 6. 367, it's a little more than a year's time. So we got 20. That's not overbearing to kind of filter through. So I'm gonna go ahead and go 12 months back. And then
12 months on pending also?
yes. Yep. Just to So I've modified that recently because I was looking at a lot of new construction and some of those are pending for a long period of time. And I was missing them
Oh, yeah.
in my search, in my research. So 367, I put in single family. So if this number shrinks significantly, when I put single family, that's going to tell me there's a lot of condos and townhomes in that neck of the woods, right? Didn't change at all. So more than likely, single family. Let me back up real quick. So I rarely do the subdivision because a lot of that relies on agent input. And, since I've been licensed 2017, I've realized we're all humans and we make errors. So, if another agent took a listing in that neighborhood and put some crazy, they might have put Masterson Station in there. And if I just put this search on subdivision, Coventry, that house might be right next to that red thumb tag, but if it's got subdivision as Masterson Station, it's not going to come up in that search. So what I like to do is I like to draw a polygon around these pockets. This one's a little bit easier because it's isolated over here, but my normal process, right above that thumb tag, I draw a polygon. And I just kind of click around that neighborhood boundary. I think off of Remington, there are some townhomes. So, boom. And two, you can change this map up, go to satellite if you want. That way it gives you clear boundaries of where those homes are located. Now, if I take off the subdivision, let's see if those results change any. 22. So we gain 2. See how that varies? Let's see where the errors are. Belmont Farms.
I wonder if that's across the thing from the house is a little bigger too. That's not very well.
Now notice that.
I wonder if that's across from the playground on the other side of that. Saw that country playground.
I'm glad you asked, Bentley, because
See where that.
you can check that. You go to that map, and when you click on the different properties, see where that star moved?
That's where it's at.
Yep,
Oh, it's right there.
it's right there. So prove my point. Now let's see what the PVA says.
Sure.
I've learned a thing or two over time. It's no fun to get caught with your pants down, especially when you're, at a listing appointment and you lose out on an opportunity.
Yep.
Those painful experiences often lead to learning experiences, learning opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Would you look at that? PVA neighborhood, Coventry. Let's see what the record for the subject says. Subdivision or PVA neighborhood, Coventry, Belmont Farm. So furthers the point. You can't rely on agent input to kind of conduct your own business and assessments. So now that we've done that, I'm going to kind of look at these houses and see. I'm going to give you a quick hack. So since I'm from southeastern Kentucky, when I got into the business, I didn't know a whole lot of neighborhoods, still a lot of neighborhoods out there that I'm not familiar with. So I've set my kind of view up here, all these columns, to kind of help me do these CMAs a little more efficiently, and kind of see where these hard breaks are between neighborhoods. So way I do that is I go to sold price per square foot. I sort that from lowest to highest. Of course, that's gonna kind of put all my closed up top because those are the only ones that have sold that would have a sold price per square foot. And then everything else is below that, active and pending, because those are blank over there. So as you can see, this neighborhood over the past 12 months has a sold price per square foot of 129 up to 233. Huge variance there, right? So now my goal is to see where that subject property fits in that window of price per square foot. Now, the biggest thing I'm looking for here is big jumps from one to the next as we go down this list. So 129 to 153, that's pretty significant, right? That's what, about $23 a square foot. I go out on a limb and say the one that sold for 129 probably needed a lot of work. Then you jump from 152 to 174. That's another big jump. What, $22? And then it starts going gradual, right? 175, 170, or 175, 176, 78, 80, 84, 89. So we're looking like $3 to $5 a square foot now. That's where I want to kind of stay. Now, if I'm completely blind walking into an appointment, a listing appointment with a seller, and I have no idea what to expect, I'll probably keep all those on there because heck, the one I'm walking into may need a whole lot of work, whole lot of TLC.
You never know till you get.
Or I might walk in there and it might knock my socks off. So I don't want to take off the one that sold the highest, which is $11 a square foot higher than the second highest. So 293 to 206, there's another big price break, right? Why is that? Don't really know because house is about the same size, built the same year, lot about the same. It's 3-bed, 2 bathrooms.
If you said, sorry, that.
Oh, you're fine.
The size, do you not do, finished area in your,
I don't because I just want to manually filter that out if necessary. Because going back to an opportunity I missed out on before, it was in a it was over there in Blackford, around that area, at Drell Point. And there's a lot of new construction around it. So I left off similar houses that had a basement with it. Or I'm sorry, that did not have a basement with it. The one that I was pricing had a basement. So the ones, I only looked at houses with basements. I didn't look at ones without basements. And I lost the opportunity over that because that added about 20K in value. Because the one that didn't have the basement sold for a lot higher price per square foot, which we'll get into in a minute. So that's why I don't, unless I have a whole lot of results there. If I have 100, results over the past 12 months that I have to sift through, I might look to slim that down because I want to keep it about 30 to 40. Something I didn't touch on was the goal here for these comparable properties is I want a good sample size of the market
which is why I'm pulling a lot of different statuses. So in an ideal world, I'd like to have 5 active comparable properties to the subject, 5 under contract, and 5 closed. What do you think that is?
Like 5.
Like 5, like 15 as a whole. It's a good sample size, right? Well,
Why is that?
closed. How far did I go back? The year, closed, that's gonna tell me, where the market is, the past 6 to 12 months. Well, really, 5 to 11 months. Right? Because if something closed yesterday, when are you going under contract? More than likely,
A couple months.
a month to 10 months. Under contract. Gonna tell me where the market was the past 30 to 45 days. Active is where the market is now. Right?
Yeah.
Sorry. This is chicken scratch. That's why my goal is to try to get 5 active, 5 under contract, 5 closed, to get a full picture of the market. Because if we price something based on the past 5 to 11 months, what if rates jacked up to 4%? It's not where the market is now. Under contract's gonna tell me where it's been more recent.
Gives you an overall good picture. It's
So,
a good range instead of, yeah, one or the other.
yep. So what I'm gonna do once I refine this list of 22 properties is I'm gonna see where price is for each of these. Price per square foot. Any days on market. Because if we see price high here, price per square foot is gonna also be high. And the days on market, more than likely is gonna be low. Now, if we see the pending at a lesser price and price per square foot, and the days on market's up, that could indicate a potential shift in market. And if that trend furthers with your active, meaning they're asking even less, and the days on market is, even more than what the pending and closed were, then that market's slowing down. Or could also indicate that the listings active are overpriced. So obviously, this is an ideal world, depending on the market, especially the one that we've been in the past probably decade. Not been able to get, usually, not been able to get the 5 active, 5 under contract as inventory so tight. Now, in the event we start seeing we're able to get those 5 active, what's that gonna tell you? Get more inventory, potential shift is occurring. So. Now we're gonna start filtering these. So the house we're pricing out is 1,800 square feet. So first things first, I start at bottom of the list. One of the things that's gonna tell me right away or add to the price per square foot on this one is the size. I can tell you right now, because smaller houses tend to sell at a higher rate per square foot than bigger houses do. And then also with those bigger houses, when you have finished square foot below grade, AKA a basement finished, that's going to bring that price per square foot down too, because below grade finished area isn't as valuable as your above grade finished area is.
Makes no sense, but that's how they do it.
Yeah, I don't,
I mean, if it's finished out,
it's finished, right?
yeah, you're living in it.
I don't know how they arrived at that either. But I heard an old rule of thumb that appraisers use is they take about, so let's say the above grade in this area is selling for from the hip, an average of $180 a square foot. And say you got 1,500 or 1,800 above grade and 500 below grade. For good whole numbers, we'll say 400 below grade finish. They'll take about 25% of that below grade square foot finish and apply it to that above grade price per square foot. Or you could take a quarter of that finished below grade, add it to the above grade finish, and then figure out your price per square foot. I take both kind of approaches, depends on the situation. Luckily, I don't think we have a basement here.
Yeah.
So this one's 2,700 square feet. Scroll to the right here. I've also added, as you can see, things that would bring that price per square foot down or raise it, right? Things like primary on the first floor. Well, where do you see those at? Boom. And then they start accumulating more frequently at the top end of the price per square foot. So, just based on this, and I can say based on my experience of looking at these, it's safe to say primary bedrooms on the first floor raises value. Stories also, if you have 2,000 square feet on one level versus 2 levels, where's that going to be more valuable? All on one level, right? Because it's a bigger footprint and it appeals to a wider audience, right? Anytime you're selling a house, that's something you always have to consider is how wide is your audience. If it's completely move-in ready, 1 story, everything's on one level in a good neighborhood, your audience is wide as possible. You got empty nesters, you got the whole slew. Versus a 2-story house with the same amount of square footage, that audience gets a little more narrow. Then you take out the fact that it's move-in ready, needs some work, maybe 20 to 50 grand. That audience gets even more narrow, right?
Cast that wide net.
That's right. So cash also probably brought that down some. It's a cash buyer, but knowing that this house is bigger than the rest and almost 900 square feet of that finished area is below grade, part of the reason it brought 129 a square foot. So before I start clicking into that, I'm going to select all since there's only 22 here. I'm going to go to photos and see what else is going on. Well, doesn't need a whole lot of work. I'm going to chalk that up to the basement, the size, and the cash buyer. Because I did also notice that probably needs a little bit of work, but I also noticed it's only on the market for 9 days. Right?
Means the right buyer have to come along.
They listed it at 365, got 353. Now, if I sorted this based on price low to high, that's while it's the lowest price per square foot sold home, it's probably the highest sold price in that neighborhood, right? So that's the other thing. I don't know if you've heard that, but rarely do you want to be the biggest house in a neighborhood.
Right.
Because you're ceiling, you determine that ceiling, not other homes around you. So I'm gonna go ahead and deselect that one. This one, Belmont Farms, 2,300 square feet, built 2019. It's a 4-bed, 2.5 bath. No basement. It's 2 stories. Let's check it out. Let me refresh my memory on the subject.
just a heads up, I do have to leave like 5 minutes to go pick up my kids from school.
Okay.
If this is gonna be on the recording, now I'm going to
Perfect.
finish what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I gotta go here in just a little bit too. I had no idea it was gonna.
Well, I'm gonna rush down through here real
It's-
quick.
It's this in depth, but it's good, so I'll try to catch next month's.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all coming nonetheless. So quick and dirty, real quick. I'm gonna eliminate all the one-story homes because the subject is what, two-story? So all these at the top, not surprised there, all one story. I'm gonna eliminate those by deselecting them. I'm gonna go to my selected, isolate those 12. See where they land. 153, 174. So let's check this one out one more time. Why did it sell for so less? It's scoring a lot. Chances are it may have a small backyard. Lower ceilings. Carpet. Didn't even show me the backyard. There it is. Yeah,
Decent.
it's not bad.
Yeah, cause it's on a corner lot.
Mm-hmm. Just needs a fence hooked in right there and taken back here and hook into your neighbors. But
I wonder if they found something, can you, does it show on there like what it was priced at and what it sold for?
Priced at 359.9, sold for 362 and
So more. So
29 days.
There wasn't any issues they found had to produce it, maybe like where you come back low or something.
Maybe.
I mean, other than the carpet upstairs, I mean, and if the carpet was in good shape.
Yeah, and it's a newer house. I don't know why it sold for so less.
I messed up on some numbers somewhere. Well, it's
29 days.
It's almost 2,400 square feet.
Okay, there we go. So they started at 384.9. So you go to history, check that. Now it
Okay.
makes more sense, right?
Okay, so it's what, 14,
They're aiming for the moon.
15 grand less, okay.
Almost 20. It is 22 grand less than what they originally started at.
Yes.
So I took that one off. Now we have these. I'm gonna take these 1.5 off, or I'm gonna take the 1 off. 1.5 might be an error. Let's see. Let's just say all these are good comps for now, instead of going through these one by one. Because I know you got a jet. That one's 2. This one's 1. It's okay. Take that 1 off. So let's say I went through each individual one of these. I've eliminated all the non-comparables. Now I've got 9. I've got at least 5 closed, 1 active, 1 under contract. I've added some more closed to compensate for the lack of under contract and active. I'm going to click CMA. The first thing I'm going to do, of course, you selected, is I'm going to pull a stat CMA. Individual listing, median calculation. This kind of serves as my cheat sheet when I'm on that appointment, because this gives me all the data that's most important to me, as well as the individual listings below that. So based on the past 12 months of the closed data, there's 7 total comparables that have sold this year, priced from 307 to 367. Sell price to list price, they got anywhere from 97% of what they were asking and as high as 101% of what they asked. So on average, they're getting what they asked for at that current time, not when they initially went to market, but what they were priced at when they got that contract, and a high of 1% above asking. Average house size is right at around 1,800. Our subjects from 1807. And the price per square foot's 174 to 185, a lot more narrow than where we started, right? We started at a low of 129 a square foot and a high of like 233. So we've trimmed that down quite a bit. We've got a nice tight window there of list price per square foot, of course, sold prices right here. And then your average days on market. So going back to that conversation earlier about, making an adjustment when the market responds to the price we offer, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, you want to go at a higher price than I'm proposing today, that's fine, as long as you're willing to make an adjustment if the market doesn't respond to that price.
And do you get them to sign something?
As it relates to that, not necessarily. I mean, the agreement that we,
I've had people I have that conversation with, and when it's 2 weeks later or a month later,
now, do you,
they don't want to drop the price.
yeah. Do you tie in some of this market data? Like, okay, we've been on the market for 30 days. The average for this neighborhood we knew was 14. We've had other houses around you go to the market priced similarly, and they've sold. What do you think's missing?
Right.
Let's look at some of those that went to the market at the same time we did that have sold before you have. What do they have that we don't? Oh, it's a lot of the same stuff that buyers have been saying on the feedback. How much do you think that costs? Rather than you do that work, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, why don't we just price it accordingly? Take that, what it would cost in repairs expenses, and take it off the price and see how the market responds. Because the market's the market. The most it should take a house in that neighborhood sell, 40 days. Chances are, if we have 10 showings, no offers, or we're on there for more than 14 days, 15 days, no offers, we're 5 to 10% overpriced. If we're on there for 40 days or more, no offers, I'd be leaning towards that 10% price adjustment.
And that's why, a CMA is just, a lot of people overlook it.
Oh, yeah. Real quick, Holly, so you see the sold price per square foot?
Yes.
I take that and I apply it to price or the square foot of the subject. So 1807 times 174. It's 315. That'd be the low. 1807 times the average price per square foot, 179. 323. 1807 times the high, 184. So that tells me your house, depending on the condition, now it could be more or less, should sell for a low of 315. Average of 325. And a high of 335 within 14 days somewhere. See how I got there?
How does the full remodel, like, how does that play into that at all?
Oh, you could ask you that. So I'm glad you brought that up because that was a thought. So what I do, of course, I haven't seen that house before going into that appointment. So this is kind of my range I was talking about at the beginning of class. So depending on, I'll walk in there starting at the average.
Okay.
Depending on condition, I'm either moving towards the low end or the high end.
Okay.
If the mechanicals, the roof, the big ticket items, the HVAC, roof's what, 20 to 30 years, half-life's 10 to 15, HVAC's 12 to 15, half-life's 6 to 7. If it's below average on that lifespan, I'm gonna go up. If they're older, I'm gonna go that way, in terms of what they would cost to replace. Also, same thing with condition updates. If it's up to current trends, I'm gonna move this way. If it needs a lot of updates, I'm gonna move that way.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And another, I just went on a contract on one in Georgetown and a lot of DIY stuff. We walked in there, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
The tiles are like this and
So
transitions.
that just makes
like-
it worse then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You're like, now we have to tear this out and restart.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that helpful?
Yes, it was. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'll see y'all soon.
Yes, you guys be careful.
You too. Hey, roughly, I know you're into it more. How long does it take to do a proper CMA? 45 minutes?
I mean, I could knock that out. I could have already priced that house 3 times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because you're teaching it and stuff,
Mhm.
but, and I'm sure the more you do it, the better you'll get, but yeah,
Mhm.
I need to start doing that because my CMAs are like, oh. And that, people don't realize, I mean,
That's why
how high and critical that is, where
Mhm.
you either know what you're doing or you don't.
Yeah, I mean, what made me invest so much into this is I've always kind of lacked confidence depending on what I'm doing. And, sports being one thing growing up. And I didn't get confidence in playing basketball until I put a lot of time in on basketball practicing, right? Same thing with real estate. Like
And the numbers don't lie.
numbers don't lie.
They
And that's the
can't
thing.
argue
And
with that.
and that's what gives me the confidence to have conversations with people and provide them guidance. Because you hear agents talking about, well, my gut says it's, worth this amount. Well,
Yeah.
my gut ain't telling me anything except for I need to poop.
That's exactly right.
Or I shouldn't hate that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It ain't never
That's
telling
it.
me anything about the price of the house.
I don't know. Yeah, CMAs are, yeah, and I've been winging it, and I'm finding out now that I've done a few listings here recently, and
Mm,
yeah.
I hope they didn't get what I just said on, on the recording. I mean, it wasn't bad. I just was talking about the bathroom business.
Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, honestly, I don't know how to guide people without, like, when it comes to price,
knowledge. is power.
without having the data, without having the numbers.
Numbers don't.
'Cause
lie,
now it's not-
knowledge is power.
Now it's not my opinion.
That's exactly right.
It's what the market
It's black and
suggests.
white.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
And hey, I'm not saying that house couldn't sell for more than 335. Buyer comes along,
Right.
340, 350. They got a bank, and that appraiser comes out and they say, yeah, it's worth 350, then, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason.
yeah,
But I'm gonna get you within a healthy range of wherever we're gonna land.
yeah,
And I'm gonna be able to, coach you and guide you on any adjustments we need to make based on the feedback we can get from showings and the market data,
yeah.
you know?
And whether or not they want to be a lister or a seller.
That's right, Gene.
I just heard that this weekend. I'm like,
That was Gene, wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, dang, I didn't realize that. He said, some people want to be listers.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference? And then when he explained that, I'm like, yeah, maybe from now on, it's gonna be like, listen, you got this much time. This is what's gonna happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
He's
getting
talking about the
ready
90 days or something like that. Like,
yeah,
that's
I'm getting
all.
ready to part ways with a couple of them because I brought a couple of good deals or other clients or buyers have and they don't want to deal. I'm like,
Oh, well, I love that too, because that's what happened on Aurora. And, sometimes that's what happened on a lot of those expireds that I ended up selling was like at the end of the day, and it's a lot easier when I paint those expectations when we initially meet. Like I talk about the days on market, us having a contract by then, and every 10 showings we should have an offer, or 14 days we should have an offer. If we don't, it's 5 to 10% overpriced. Here's the other thing, is if we keep getting offers and they're right around the same amount, what do you think that is?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? That's the market telling us what the value of this property.
this one guy over in Frankfurt, I wanted to drop it to 335. He had it at 350. 2.5 months. I wanted to drop it 330. No, John, we don't have to. I'm not in a hurry. We can sell it. I said, okay. We've got 3 offers, 3.
Right around the same time.
Yep, 335, 337, and I think 338 right in there.
Mhm.
I'm like, it's telling us right there. He passed it all. He only dropped it down like 345. Those people weren't willing to go. They would go up to 340, and I couldn't bridge the gap with him.
So that's where,
I'm about at the point to tell him he needs to find another agent.
well, that's why I'm always adamant about motivation. Anytime you're talking to a prospect, buyer, or seller, you got to cultivate them. You got to determine what their motivation is. Are they just putting a house out there to see what they can get versus they need more space, they don't need that much space, they need to relocate for a job, they need to relocate for family, whatever that is. Well, like, I understand you're not in a hurry. However, when we started this process, you told me you wanted to get to X by Y,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Is that still the case?
yeah,
You know, because oftentimes people just get hung up in their head over something that isn't even real, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're telling me that guy dropped his price to 345 and he turned his back on 337 or 335?
yeah.
We're talking about what, 10 grand?
I had one of them within 8 grand, he would do it.
What are you hoping? I
I'm
mean,
like, and that's what I asked him. He said, John, well, I'm just not in a hurry to sell. I said, well, at first you told me you wanted to sell that property. He lives in Berea. His daughter's in that one. His daughter and son, they were gonna buy a place here in Lexington. But now the son moved in with a buddy, so now he said he's not in a hurry.
no, you still want to sell.
Yeah, he still wants to sell, but he's not in a hurry.
What's the reason for the daughter moving to Lexington? Wait, where's the place at now?
In Frankfurt.
Frank.
And she works in Frankfurt. But he wants her closer to him. Cause she only works like 3 days a week at the hospital there in Frankfurt. So he wants her closer to him.
She got kids?
No, she doesn't.
He just wants his daughter closer.
And Lexington is a place where it's got lots of amenities, and especially this area, she can hop on the interstate and be in Frankfurt pretty quick, or get on there and be in Berea.
I understand you're not in a hurry. However, you expressed you wanted your daughter close.
Yeah. Gotta keep going back to that pain.
Remind me what was important about that.
That's right, yeah. Gee.
What do you, by you waiting, because heck, you wait long enough, you'll get 345, 350, right? In due time, the market will,
Yeah,
get there. How long are you willing to wait and how much is that gonna cost you? Because it just costed you 8 grand. Now, if you're sitting on this house another 12 months and your daughter's living in Frankfurt, not close to you, how much is that gonna cost
yeah. You throw that time in there,
you? Yeah,
that's it.
that's it.
Thank you, man.
Yes,
As
sir.
always. Have a good one.
You as well. Merry Christmas if I don't see you.
Merry Christmas.
Holler at me if you need anything.
Yeah, you. I hope they didn't get that on camera.
Hope not as well. See you, John. Come next month.
See you, man. Yeah. Have a good one, man.
Keep it low.